Studio Series Wave 8 in under 60 minutes. Let's go. So for the however many of you checked out the previous one, you'll know that I was talking a lot of game about this one, saying that the combined efforts of Wave 7 and 8 just so happened to make this pretty much the peak of Studio Series. But more importantly, is that still the case, or am I completely wrong and stinky and have opinions? I don't know, maybe we ought to just, you know, start. Studio Series 49 Bumblebee in over 60 seconds, let's go. I already did a short on this guy, so is there a possibility for repeated jokes? It's also notable because this is the first one nearly 50 figures in that's kind of based on the mainline movies of Bumblebee. I will continue to refuse to acknowledge the exclusives or the Volkswagen Bee for as long as I live. This is the one that kind of gave me that trippy feeling of, oh, the toys have gotten smaller, which absolutely they have gotten smaller, but also I've gotten bigger. Like, I am so big. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I always liked the simplicity of this one before they began going all out crazy with the f***ing black stripes and spoilers and other shit. This car is just terribly fun, if also a bit dated. Paint applications are solid. I'm not sure what spurred them on to continue the stripes this far, but I welcome it. Wheels are silver. By all accounts, the only thing it's missing is that totally hilarious number plate that it used to have. You know, 4NZZ, that's so funny. Now, admittedly, if you look around here, you'll see there is some slight discrepancy in the colour matching because, unfortunately, Joe Hasbro hates us. Because yellow is a really tedious colour to try and colour match when painting on clear plastic. But for the most part, very good. Some panel lines, some paint issues, but he rolls well. And he looks good from pretty much any angle. Okay, except maybe this one. So, you know, what's not to love? I'll show you what's not to love. Anyway, once you get past that turbulent trial of Hercules, you get into the very solid robot mode. Keep in mind I'm saying solid. It looks alright amongst the others, but it has its problems. For example, Jesus H. Christ. The H stands for Hoppenheimer. What in the good name of is that on your back? I really want to know why they just decided to get lazy with Bumblebee and insisted on doing these with the wheels where they just kind of jut out the side. Like, they don't have to sit like that. You can angle them. I thought you could angle them back. Apparently you can't angle them, never mind. I just hate them and think they're lazy as Anyway, he comes with a pretty good ankle tilt if you're willing to break his ankle, essentially. But also worth noting is you can get some pretty good poses out of him. You know, he's very... Oh, he's alright, he's just got stage fright. If you look away, he'll do it. Wow, so cool. Also, I really like the design of his arms. That's just always been a thing. His arms have just always looked really cool to me. Shame about the wrist, though. Also, I think it's worth talking about his gun very briefly. It looks really nice, but I can't decide if I preferred the way it was before, where you swap the arm out, or if it's this way, where it's just an accessory on a 5mm peg. I don't know, I think it accomplishes what it sets out to do. With colours that aren't quite flying, but more gliding on a gentle breeze. I think now the only other thing that I need to talk about with this guy is... the head is pretty frightening. It's one of the things I'm genuinely grateful to Rise of the Beast for, is actually sorting out his head sculpt and making it look okay. Because this looks like something out of Mad God or something. Although at least this one comes with the Autobot symbol on the forehead. I think in general, with the amount of excess pieces and faux kibble that this guy brings to the table, mixed with the hamperings of a toy design that probably wasn't solid on the off, this Bumblebee kind of saddens me a little bit, and it's a shame that we never got any sort of real retribution for the live action Bay vs. Bee. He's still not the worst Bay vs. Bee in Studio Series, but examining that thing just requires a really small ruler. Float like a butterfly, sting like a... get the out of here. Studio Series 50 was World War II Hot Rod from the last night. It's the same mold as the World War II Bumblebee, but in better colours. Yeah, I can part with this one. It doesn't really fulfill its purpose anymore, because it. Studio Series 50 Soundwave in over 60 seconds, let's go. Wow, what a very nice, cool, unsuspecting car. Complete with the Sable premium finish that I've come to love from the Studio Series lineup. Complete with Japanese antenna. Wow, very cool. Yes, before we continue with Soundwave, he comes with a Laserbeak. Everyone's favourite Turkey Vulture is back. Laserbeak was literally like the most present Decepticon in that movie. He deserves better than this, come on. You gave us Pink Bumblebee and apparently that was a load of shit, so give me one that turns into a flat screen or a printer. But now talking about the accessories accessory, I love this car mode and I love the fact that it's actually silver. The painted rims, grille, headlights, taillights just add that much more to the sort of figure's level of finish. The wheels don't roll because famously Soundwave's actually a hover vehicle. You ruined my f***ing joke. You weren't moving before, you little arsehole. It's a very tightly packed vehicle mode. Also, can I just say real quick as a tangent, this is like one of my favourite Soundwave alt modes. It's a level of espionage that the character's never really seen before, but I f*** with it. But I generally don't f*** with him flashing his ass at me out of the windscreen. F*** you I'll put a hole in the moon. I would very much love to put this figure in front of the camera and transform it, but I really can't be fucked. I feel like conceptually as a design, Dark of the Moon Soundwave completely summarizes the issues or the love for Bayverse. Specifically in the head sculpt, like this looks like no other Soundwave, but yet I can tell it's Soundwave. I think that's probably the emotional bias that I have towards Dark of the Moon. I can't help it, it's the first one that came out when I actually had friends. I enjoyed it for that. His shoulders do this weird thing where they're actually back behind the head. Is that a good or a bad thing? Vote now in the comments. And we have the results coming in, and it's a weird thing. It's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but it's always weird when that happens. Of course, articulation is kind of out the window in case you weren't already paying attention. I know I haven't been paying attention. What were we talking about? Just now realizing you can display the shoulders like this. I don't know who would do that. The really funny part is I probably would. It's me. I would do that. I think the easiest way to describe this Soundwave is his jank. He's not the jank of the originals, but he's very much the jank of the new approach that they were trying to take. Like, on an objective level, this is probably one of the better deluxes to come out of the last 2 years. But most notably, he's still not that good. He's okay. He's just a big, shiny, silvery turd. And speaking of that, we've also got the accessory in the form of Laserbeak, who literally just sits there. Why did I leave him like that? You can recreate that one scene where these two were actually together. Isn't that just super quirky? Wow. He's not perfect and he's a bit plain even with the premium paint, but he's not really a bad figure. But I think it's also worth noting one thing. This is the best Soundwave we've ever gotten out of Studio Series. Probably see you in 2025 to explain myself. Also, I'm assuming whatever the this is on my desk just broke off him and I have no idea where it's come from. Never mind, I found it. Not sure how in God's moist that happened, but at least it probably wasn't my fault. Oh, also his backpack and back profile suck. Studio Series 52 Chromia Elite 1 and Arcee in over 60 seconds. Let's go. Can't believe they go around making out concept as a new thing for Studio Series when these three exist. Granted, these were more a concept that somehow leaked into the Revenge of the Fallen movie. I'll be honest, I never really hated this idea, but it also never really made much sense to me. Simply because they didn't expand on it, and that to me just kind of confused me a little bit. Also, the three are very capable in their bike mode, so I'm not going to dwell too much on these. They all come with some sort of molded in kickstand so they can remain upright in bike mode. And choosing to do the Arcee triplets, I really hate that name, and that's part of the reason it confuses me. In what is essentially the very first core class 3-pack, it works a lot. Points where it's due, Joe Hasbro. Also, the Chromia bike is my favourite. I think it's because it's the most visually distinct from the three, thanks to some different approaches, whereas the other two just look very kinda samey. I've probably just attracted the part of the community that happens to love motorbikes, and they're going to come in and tell me why I'm wrong. This video has now become an SOS. Please help me. Please get to me before they do. I would go through the transformation for all of these, but here's the problem. There kinda really isn't one, and I don't much care for it. So them, I don't care. Also, as a quick aside, these guys come with some combined mode and some extra accessories to make that combined mode a reality. I hate it, and I don't much care for these extra accessories outside of the knife, so they can fester in the drawer, and I'm not doing the combined mode. And this is where my flaws with these figures come full force. Just, what the are these? Like, I can defend the Bayverse and some of its more abstract designs, like the f***ing unicycling demolisher and skipjack and all that sort of shit, but this, all three of these share waist articulation, head articulation, and arm articulation, all on ball joints that are too frequently keen to pop off. See? Now, I do just want to clarify that I don't hate this set in particular. It's working to the designs, and the designs are very accurately replicated, but it didn't have to be like this. But functionally, they're just a bunch of unicycles that can't really pose. I'm not interested in dogging on these too much because there's loads of channels out there that despise the Bayverse, and I'm not one of them. And to my collector brain, I like having a complete set of Autobots from the movie, so these aren't going anywhere, but just why the do they all have to have wheels instead of legs? Is this some statement of sexism that being a woman is a disability? Well, honestly, probably not, and if you think I was being serious, you're a moron. I don't know, just a bunch of quirky girls with quirky quirks. Also, of the bunch, Chromia is still my favourite, even if it takes absolutely nothing to knock her over. She lost that display stand in my Titan display for about 6 months. Granted, for 5 months and 29 of those days, I wasn't actively looking for it. I was probably just, I don't know, fucking tugging one out and having a cry while I do it. I seem to just cry a lot. It's allergies, I swear. Cried when my cat died. I'm like, oh, it's allergies, leave me alone. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Basically, this is just one of the sets of all time. I mean, absolutely no disrespect to the designers at Joe Hasbro. They worked wonderfully with what they were given. It just so happened that what they were given was a glitter bomb full of shit. I don't know, it makes complete sense that we'd have to cover one of the Bayverse L's before I get to talking about the really good of this wave, such as Studio Series 53 Mixmaster in over 60 seconds, let's go. Peak Truck. I have a lot of time and love for this alt mode, although I will deduct points because it decides to miss out the Decepticon insignias on the barrel, although it makes up those points by including the hood ornament. I really like this. I always ask my wife about getting one and she responded by saying, when are you actually going to do something useful with your spare time? It hurt because she was right. There isn't much to say outside of some nice paint applications. I like the detailing, I like the sculpt work. Rolls with complete painted silver tires. Yeah, the front one's got a mushroom peg, but I can forgive it because I'm a fucking simp. Although admittedly we do have to kind of pretend that the hands and feet back here just don't exist, so what hands and feet? You're chatting a load of shit. Mixmaster was very quite famously a nugget. What are you talking about? Long story short, it's clean and it does exactly what it sets out to do. There isn't much more to add to that, I'm afraid. If Hightower was my favourite for ironic post reasons, the Mixmaster is my favourite because he's just good. Whilst he is an incredibly busy and odd design with a lot of busy work and a lot of unflattering colours, it just feels like he wears it a lot better than the likes of Scrapper and Longhaul. It's weird because all I have to do is just hunch him over and next thing you know he's basically on all fours. Thanks to the fact that the limbs are freakishly long and very out of proportion, it definitely gives him an air where he can actually move around, much in the way that those others really can't thanks to their kibble and design. This guy's just got a lot of unrepressed freedom in articulation. Admittedly, hand articulation doesn't really exist, but something turned up, so you know, you can't get mad about that. The legs, while looking remarkably straightforward, actually happen to possess quite a bit of range. Literally all this guy was missing was ankle tilts, and they turned up the year after this. Also, I just love the detail and paint apps that go into these crab heads. It just makes them feel so much more cursed, to be quite honest, but I don't mind it. Admittedly, in the face of things, Mixmaster doesn't look like anything special, and being realistic, he probably isn't. You know, except for the part where he's the head of the operation, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm making a lot of unintentional head and face puns with this guy. I didn't mean to do it, but please laugh. But by all accounts, this guy's unique design and articulation just add a lot to his character. I could totally see this guy cooking up methamphetamine in his kitchen. Oh, sorry, I mean synthetic energon. Haha. He just works, and I genuinely think he's one of the strongest combiners? No. He just works, and I genuinely think he's one of the strongest Constructicons that we got out of the SS lineup. Maybe the only good Constructicon from the SS lineup. But that's an argument for another day. For now, let's talk about the actual head of the operation. Studio Series 54 Megatron in over 60 seconds, let's go. Allow me to cash in my fake fan card right now because this is my first time ever owning this design. Yeah, I know, right? What a loser. So in case you were unsure, this is based on Megatron from the 07 movie and probably the alt mode we saw the most of out of any of the alt modes in the movies. And I gotta be honest with you, it's pretty neat. Now, I feel like it's worth saying that it does look like some scrunched up tin foil that's just been thrown down and then had some extra bits pulled out of it, but no, wait, no, but that's actually about as far as it goes. We have the obvious add-ons detailings to make it look somewhat like a jet. It is also just a big mess of details that kind of make it look more like a bird of some description. Look, it's the great flying us. I'm gonna have to censor that because I just said anyway. It's plenty swooshable. It's fine for what it is, but I think one of the key things with Megatron alt modes from the movies is that either you love it or you hate it. And personally, I'm here for it. I think it tackled the job better than the tank ever did. Also, they did not need to go as hard as they did on the paint. Like, holy shit. Wow, is that a retool of the Revenge of the Fallen Megatron? In Wave 8? What are the chances? Yeah, for some reason they used the Revenge of the Fallen one as a baseline, so it keeps the same chest, albeit with different paint applications. I mean, it's the same chest. Would you want me to f***ing you? But in order to help him stand out from his peers, he comes with a set of boots. Yes, for some reason, the wings all fold up to form the legs and just gives him a right old pair of moon boots, which unfortunately leads to this unintended side effect with his knees. But he does have something to compensate. See, this Megatron studied the Siege School of Articulation before coming out, and it pays off, actually. It gives him a bit of dynamism. A bit of that posability, you know. Oh, that looks a bit painful. Of course, whether you love or hate this design, the head looks exactly like you'd expect, and I'm fairly happy with it, all things considered. His hands, however, have no articulation because they're just big, dangly noodle claws. So he does have something in the way of an accessory. Mace. Mace is here. Mace exists. Yeah, we're not the biggest fan of Mace mace around these parts. But honestly, I just wish he could have done the other thing that this Megatron did in the movie. I don't know, just overall this Megatron exists and I'm happy to have one. Like, he's not perfect and I'm not going to pretend he is, but he brings a lot of the essence to life despite his limitations. I could probably say it's the best Megatron we've gotten out of Studio Series as of 2020. I could say that, as I could say a lot of things, such as subscribe to my channel. I don't know, that ever fateful remedy of not quite being perfect and already being a love or hate it kind of situation is unfortunately the purgatory that this Megatron finds himself in. I like it, you might not, and that's okay. But what isn't okay is that was a trick, it says. Cliffhanger endings, that's not okay. Studio Series 55 Scavenger in over 60 seconds, let's go. He's a big digger with an arm that do stuff. And that's about it, actually. You can see loads of painted details up and down the left and right hand sides of his alt mode. He has treads that are just wheels because such treads wouldn't be possible. Thanks, Joe Hasbro, you managed to do it the first time, but not this time. I still can't believe that the UK government's going to introduce a Joe Hasbro tax just for me as punishment. Oh, also he has something resembling a face, intently staring at something underneath there. You sinister motherfucker. Well, do you know that I don't, huh? Okay, let's just talk about a big ugly unicycle instead. Revenge of the Fallen Scavemolisher is the living definition of, but why? See, it's a really cool design in theory, and then you actually get it as a toy in practice, and you just think, but why? Why have a design that can't stand up on its own 2 feet? I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. Is this woke representation making its way into my Transformers and making them all disabled in wheelchairs? I mean, no, it 100% isn't. It's just a kooky design, so... He comes with these big, long arms that end up serving as support stands more than anything else. He comes with this very unique head sculpt that kind of reminds me of Freddy Krueger, except they kind of botched the paint on the eyes. Scavenger, I don't recall your eyes looking like in both colour and consistency, my dude. Plus somehow they managed to give this guy a waist, but not Megatron. His head, you'll never guess, can do this. That's it, that's about the extent of the articulation. I mean, one minute this is true, the next minute it isn't, so feel free to tell me I'm chatting a load of shit. But apparently Scavenger was the first contender for a Studio Series commander. And I would have been very intrigued to see what that would have looked like given the limitations of this design. Like, I don't hate this design by any means. I think it's really cool and I love the weird out there Constructicons. But as a figure for play and display, it's not very captivating, is it? But as a counterpoint to that, he can still do the bike. Sure, whatever, I know peak when I see it. Studio Series 56 Shockwave in over 60 seconds, let's go. He tank mode. Oh, hey, that looks familiar. Let's just get one thing right out of the way right now. It's a little bit funny looking. Misshapen and not the most practical. Like me in all my prom photos. Except I didn't go to prom. Because I was too much of a Sigma and everyone who did go was a wanker. Now, being some third-party KO of a Samsung tank, this guy has everything you expect with some extras, such as hose for some reason. And not even them hose. That's the zaniest bit. Rocket thrusters for the aesthetic. Boy, he's made you look a right wanker, Skipjack. Will Skipjack ever get his revenge? Tune in some other time to find out on the next episode. No, he won't. I don't know, it's one of these where when you start to pick out the details, it looks cool. And before you pick out the details, it looks like a mess. But no matter. Let's skip to the good part. Oh god, I'm worried Shockwave now thinks I'm going to force myself on him. I just can't help it, he's so handsome. Wow, is that a retool of the Revenge of the Fallen Megatron? In Wave 8? What are the chances? Okay, time for me and you to sit down and have the talk. As far as I'm concerned, this Shockwave is peak Studio Series. And I'm not even joking. Despite some lackluster articulation, he has got so much to make up for it. The weirdest face hugger ribcage. A motherfucking beast mode stance like he's getting ready to absolutely fill some in. I'm sorry, but as far as hulking brute Shockwaves go, this one would fucking kick prime Shockwave's ass. Also, I think this head sculpt is tied with Bayverse Optimus for perfect live action adaptation of a head sculpt. I fucking love the absolute malice encoded into this thing. It's beautiful. Also, this Shockwave decided to bring a boiled kettle to the water gun fight with the neighbours. Good for him, it's important to have dreams. Like, I want to open a bakery. I'm gonna call it Sheep's Cream Pies. sake. Admittedly, the fact that water cannon comes with a thumb's a bit weird. Like, I know it's supposed to be a trigger, but it just looks like a thumb. Also, the sword would be really f***ing peak if it wasn't so damn squishable. Like me after Taco Bell. Also, I would be remiss if I did not mention little guys. Yes, they're as small as they look. No, they don't add much value to the whole thing. No, I'm not going to talk about them anymore. Thank you very much. Oh, also, he comes with parachute guy. I don't know where mine is, so here's some cutaway footage of probably the worst of the Bayverse kills, thanks. But going back to the core thing of this set, as soon as you get that premium silvery shiny metallic purple paint, this man becomes an instant killer. Yeah, its origins as a Megatron retool are a little bit weird, but I don't care. It's an example of how far retooling has come from the olden days. I have absolutely no qualms about saying that at this time it was one of my favourite Studio Series figures, and to this day it's still one of my favourites. This figure and this mould are just so great for a character who frankly deserved better, but thankfully this serves as the perfect opportunity to be his second wind. But you know what the main thing about this right now is? Get over here. I feel talking about Wave 8 in conclusion, I've kind of overhyped it a little bit. You know, some of it tried its best. Some of it may have missed the landing a little bit. Some of it, admittedly, is balls deep in Point Nemo right now. It missed the runway that f***ing much. But when you look at some of the larger scale figures in this wave, okay, you can fight me on that one, and I won't even put up a fight. You get the first hit, I promise. You can see this is where they kind of hit the stride for the Bayverse. And in terms of Bayverse, this year and primarily this wave was where it kind of hit the best they ever did. Wave 7 and 8 was the definitive highlight of Studio Series for me before they began to branch off and bog down and began to f*** up the original setup for the line. But that's a topic for me to bitch about another day. For now, this was a fun wave for all its flaws. I'm not saying any of it's perfect, but I like what a lot of it tried to do. And sometimes, that's all you need. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.